I love theists who tell atheists that they're wrong, and then turn off the comments on their videos so atheists can't respond. Such is the case with Andy Bannister, director of the Solis Center for Public Christianity, who, even though the group is supposedly for public discourse, he hides on YouTube and doesn't let the public address his points. I guess we can't be surprised. So let's take a look at Andy's claim that without God, life can have no meaning.
Can life have meaning without God?
Yes, it can.
You know, I hear the idea that it can from many of my atheist and secular friends. I regularly hear people tell me, I don't need to believe in God to be happy or fulfilled or to live some kind of meaningful life. Well, whilst I respect where that's coming from, I want to respectfully say, I'm afraid you can't. If there is no God, there is no meaning.
Then let me respectfully tell you that you're full of shit.
Let me tell you why. If we live in a godless universe, then I guess what some people would say is, well, the meaning to be found is the meaning that personally works for you. So go out and embrace some cause that brings meaning and significance to your life. But I'm afraid that doesn't work, because what happens when those meanings clash?
Clash? How? I mean, I suppose it's possible to hold different causes that you think are important that are intellectually contradictory. I mean, say you're a diehard environmentalist who also happens to like driving high-powered supercars that pollute like there's no tomorrow. You're talking about two goals that are fundamentally incompatible. That's going to introduce cognitive dissonance, which you're going to have to deal with. But that doesn't stop you from having different causes that you personally find worthwhile.
For example, suppose that you decide your meaning of life is going to be to embrace the cause of environmentalism. You send large donations to Greenpeace, you install solar panels on the roof, you even drive a clockwork Toyota Prius. You could not possibly be any greener.
And if that's something you want to do, that's entirely up to you. You have the right to find purpose in any cause that you happen to personally enjoy. What's the problem?
But then you meet a friend at work who's decided that the purpose of her life is going to be to have a carbon footprint bigger even than Bigfoot's. So she's installed a vast coal-fired gas turbine power generator in her garden shed. She kills baby seals and makes them into gloves for a hobby. And she even drives a Hummer. In fact, two of them. You couldn't find somebody who is less environmentally friendly.
Okay, so what? How does your purpose become less important to you just because someone else has an entirely different and in fact diametrically opposed purpose? At best, you figure out how to coexist. At worst, you just stop being friends or change jobs or whatever. We're talking about individual purposes here. There is no single purpose that everyone on the planet has to share.
Your meaning of life and your colleague's meaning of life completely clash. How do you resolve that?
Maybe you don't, and there's nothing wrong with that.
You can't appeal upwards because we live in an atheistic world, you've said, right? There is no God. What do you do?
Why do you think that you have to appeal to anyone or anything? There isn't a referee for personal preference.
You're reduced, I guess, to fighting it out, and we can see how many people we can align behind us and try and defeat the other one. And you see, meaning has collapsed.
Totally wrong. You're looking for universal meaning that everyone agrees with, and that's ridiculous. So long as you have your own personal goals and things that have meaning to you, what difference does it make if other people share that meaning? Even if you have goals for all of humanity, that doesn't mean you're going to succeed. I mean, I wish humanity would give up on this stupid religion idea, but it doesn't bother me that other people are out trying to spread the word and convert people to their religion.
You see, what if meaning cannot actually come from within? What if meaning has to be something that's given to us from outside?
That's simply incorrect. There's no evidence whatsoever that's true. Try again.
Do you know, in many areas of life, we recognise that all the time. Let's imagine that you and I both pick up a copy of Richard Dawkins' best-selling book on atheism, The God Delusion, but we decide we're going to find our own meaning in the book.
Which you're welcome to do. You can get any message from any source you like, whether or not that was the message intended by the creator.
Perhaps I read the book and decide that actually what I see in there is a guide to taxidermy, and I take up stuffing small animals with sand for a hobby.
Okay, why is there a problem with that? If that's what you get out of it, knock yourself out.
You, on the other hand, the meaning that you find in the book is that you read it as a cookery book, and it inspires you to apply for Great British Bake Off and invent a whole range of cakes and desserts based on the book. Well, we meet each other in the pub one day, and we end up having a massive fight about the meaning we have both found in the God Delusion.
That's only possible if you are, well, delusional enough to think that your meaning is the only possible meaning. That means both of you are wrong.
And then who should walk in the door of the pub but Richard Dawkins himself? He looks at the two of us rolling around on the floor, trading blows, and says, "What are you two jokers fighting about?" And we tell him. And he looks at us and he says, "Well, hang on a minute. Let me clear it up for you. I am the author of that book, and I can tell you its meaning."
He can tell you the meaning he intended, but he can't tell you the meaning that every individual who reads the book actually gets. That's the thing about meaning. Only the individual has any say in it.
Well, on this occasion, the good Professor Dawkins would in fact be right, because as the author of the book, he can indeed put meaning into the book from outside.
He can express the meaning that he intended, and that's all that he can do. But of course, in this case, Richard Dawkins is demonstrably real, and he actually wrote the book, as opposed to some imaginary God figure for which neither of these things are actually true.
Now, we see that goes for books. What about life? If there is an author, if there is a creator, then life can have a meaning.
If. That doesn't mean that you can just leap from if there's a God to because there's a God. You actually have to demonstrate that.
But just as if the Richard Dawkins book was actually just created by an explosion in the Scrabble factory, causing the letter tiles to fall randomly on the ground, there would be no meaning in the book. Likewise, if life is just a cosmic accident, life can have no meaning.
Do you ever get tired of being so wrong all the time? Even if there's no inherent meaning in things, that doesn't mean that individuals can't find personal meaning in them. You can look at a beautiful sunrise and find meaning in it. Is it inherently there? No. Can you come up with something meaningful to you? Absolutely. Geez, Andy, you're an idiot.
But the Christian worldview says something far more exciting than that. It doesn't just tell us there is a God, there is a creator, there is an author, and therefore there is a meaning of life. But it tells us that creator, that author, that God has stepped into history in the person of Jesus Christ. In fact, history is his story.
None of which it can demonstrate with objectively verifiable evidence. Those are all just empty claims without any demonstrable support. You're just spouting mythology. Knock it off.
And he invites us not just to discover the abstract meaning of life, but to know that meaning of life through a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Again, none of which is demonstrably so. You're just making unsupported arguments based on blind faith that no one with half a brain in their head should ever take seriously.
Christianity says, yes, there is a meaning of life, but that meaning is not an abstract idea, not a concept, not a philosophy, but a person who can be known, Jesus Christ.
Let us know when you can produce this supposed person. Otherwise, what you're saying is just as ridiculous as, I don't know, J.K. Rowling saying that you can have a personal relationship with Harry Potter.
And the question is simply, do we not just want to know life's meaning in the abstract, but do we want to know life's meaning personally? I hope that you do.
I want to know reality as it actually is, and that's all. Until you can prove that any of the crap you're spouting is actually so, I've got no reason to take any of it seriously. You're just making unsupported assertions without a shred of objective proof. So no thanks. I'm not interested in your crazy cult. Maybe there's a reason you turned off comments, because you know that everyone would point out your abject lunacy if you allowed them to. You'd rather hide in your echo chamber where nobody's allowed to disagree, where you can tell lies about the opposition, and they don't get equal time to respond. Luckily, this is YouTube, where I can make my own video response to your drivel and point out just how absurd your beliefs actually are. I don't care if you see it or not, because you've already proven that you're too afraid to deal with the facts when they contradict your foolish beliefs. And that's okay, because we already know. We know how weak you are. We know how silly your beliefs are, and we're not afraid to point that out to anyone who will listen. You don't care about truth. You only care about emotional comfort. And I'm sorry, but that's a really pathetic way to live your life.
Everything changes.